related to any of these payments areas, we can set up a subsequent session based on those needs. Please feel free to reach out as we're talking to ask questions of them. And with that, I will let Roger introduce himself and Lauren and Keith to follow that, and then they will control from here.
Great. Yeah, good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, good evening. I guess, as Andrea, as you guys mentioned, I think you guys did a modern banking platform overview recently as well, and maybe there was a payments component in there. I did invite Kathy and James from my payment side as we probably share a high-level payments one overview. I'll ask Kathy to go ahead and maybe share our kind of high-level overview of payments one, which would include debit, ATM, fraud, and credit, and then pass it over to Keith for the second half of the conversation.
Yeah, I'm here, Roger. That sounds good. I think we're good to go.
Okay, excellent. I think, Kathy, this is probably you and your deck slide.
Yes, it is. Good morning, everyone. Good evening. Good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. My name is Kathy Worth, and I report to Roger in our Business Solutions Group. And our responsibility is to assist our sellers in the marketplace to deliver a message on our product offerings. What you have in front of you today is a PowerPoint deck that it's a typical one that we would use with our prospects. And I will share with you, it is not specific to your organization. So if there are items that we're going to be covering that may not be a perfect fit for you, that's fine. This is just to show you an example of what we can bring to the table. Does that sound like a deal?
That's perfect, Kathy.
Wonderful.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right, so let us move on. So FIS payments. In the payments environment today, there are several things that we can deliver to our customers and prospects, and that is a unified solution for both debit and credit. And typically we would open with an overarching video that we could share with our customers today. It is a little bit long though, so I'm going to choose not to do so. We can certainly forward to your attention the link and you can watch it at your convenience. From a debit and credit perspective, when we talk about all-encompassing payments, we're talking about Payments One. And Payments One from FIS is a journey that we have been on for the last, Roger, I'd say the last almost 3 years now. And what this is allowing us to do is to empower our customers to service all of their customers within one centralized user interface. And in doing so, they're able to leverage both debit, credit, and eventually it will be prepaid into their environment today. So the full spectrum of payments, as I had noted on my screen here today. And so what we're going to do is we're going to dive a little bit deeper into each one of them. FIS has invested millions and millions of dollars into our platforms to really leverage new technology that's available in the marketplace. And new features and benefits that allow their customers to leverage the latest and greatest of what's available for innovation. One of those happens to be Ethos. Ethos is our the way that we are going to be transforming how our customers have access to their data. In an Ethos environment today, we would be looking to providing the customers with access to debit, credit, core services, and every single ancillary product in between to allow them to pull down data to see how active are their customers, what data insights can we reveal to the customers, what artificial intelligence can we bring to the table. That's machine learning that allows us to help our customers grow their portfolios. We are also leveraging Code Connect. If you have listened to the MVP discussions last week, you probably learned a little bit more about Code Connect and how FIS is changing the world with our open APIs. Of course, we're talking about Payments One specifically this morning for fraud monitorization, being able to take our solutions, provide them best of breed to our customers to either eliminate or minimize fraud losses within their portfolios. And those products go across both debit, credit, and they will be on prepaid as well. From a loyalty perspective, bringing new solutions to the table so that our customers can attract their customers to grow their portfolios as quickly as possible. In addition, being able to send a message down to the cardholder that we are going to provide you with real-time redemption of your hard-earned points within your loyalty program to give you instant gratification on your loyalty to the financial institution and the issuer. And then, of course, inserting some robotic processes as well. So that's just a snapshot of what we bring to the table from an innovation perspective. One of the main messages that we provide to our customers is that we can help enhance the members' experience. We can also assist them in simplifying their operations, and we can target revenue creation within their portfolios today. And so what I'd like to do is share with you just a little bit of information on how we can do that for our members and customers. So first, we have to allow our customers, our clients, to engage their members across all payments platforms. So to do so, as I had mentioned on one of my earlier slides, we do bring some innovation to the table and a reinvestment into our products and services to remain on the cutting and leading edge of technology. In doing so, we're able to enhance the member journey, and the member journey would be their day-to-day lives. And we do so by providing easy to adopt solutions. In doing so, the benefit and the value to the financial institution is that they would have anywhere engagement with their members. They could mitigate fraud losses within their environment and increase member loyalty all at the same time. I'll show you an example. So an example of that, of just a very quick highlight of 3 or 4 different solutions that we bring to the table. This would be an example of a member journey. In a member journey, what we're looking at is that member's day-to-day life and how that could be impacted by innovation that FIS could deliver to the financial institution. So in opening up a new account, we can either do digital issuance or instant issuance with several partners in the marketplace. During the course of any day, we can send messages down to the cardholder themselves to say, do you recognize this transaction? Yes or no? And we would take appropriate actions regardless of which answer that they actually respond to. So near real-time messaging out for the cardholder to actually do that validation for us. And then just as an example, if they don't recognize the transaction, we could put a temporary hold on the customer's record so that further transactions would be declined. An example of technology that we have brought to the table that is going to be changing slightly in the future is cardless cash. Cardless cash right now is a way that the cardholder can pre-stage their ATM withdrawal. And in doing so, they find an ATM that supports this functionality through a search on their web search on their cell phone. Sorry, can't talk this morning. And in doing so, they would approach the ATM, scan the QR code, never enter in their PIN or their plastic. The cash would be distributed at the ATM, and then the cardholder is off and running after they grab their receipt. In addition, the customer could, through cardholder controls, allow themselves to go in and turn on and turn off their card if needed, set appropriate alerts and displays and information back to them so that they can receive that information immediately at their cell phone. An example of loyalty would be something that we call premium payback. And in premium payback, we allow our customers to instantly redeem their points at let's say the example is BP Rewards, and they go to the gas station to fill up their tank. And they are able to say, oh, you've got X number of thousands of points. Would you like to redeem those to roll back the price of the gas? So once again, immediate gratification at the pay at the pump. Just an example. So in these brief examples, what we're able to show you is that you really can engage your customer from any device that's available to them. They would have access to their money very, very quickly. They can protect their personal accounts through our fraud and risk mitigation tools, and they can increase their loyalty to you. Any questions so far?
No, Kathy, I was just going to say that I think part of this concept is when working with FIs, banks or credit unions, the concept is, the suite of solutions in the payments, that stickiness, with rewards or the ability to redeem real time is going to drive additional transactions, which is going to drive additional interchange income. So those factors are all, front and center for these banks and credit unions that we work with in the US. And that's why some of this stuff resonates with them as far as customers or members. Their experience is what we're trying to drive to help, make them as loyal and as sticky and as, active as far as using their cards as much as possible to drive that additional revenue stream for the bank or credit union.
Exactly. Any questions before we go on?
Yeah, thank you so much. But are you also going to talk about the experience from the perspective of the bank or the credit union as well?
We will go into some of that. I don't know that I have a specific deck that talks about operational efficiencies, but we will talk through how that is simplified through the use of the user interface.
Got it. Thank you.
So FIS supports tokenization through our mobile wallets. And once again, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on each one of these slides. We can certainly remove specific slides and make this deck available to you after our discussion this morning. How's that?
That'll be great. Thank you.
Just examples of card activation through QR code for our customers, and an example of the corresponding APIs that would be used if this is going to be controlled by the client themselves. ATM driving, I don't know if that was a focus. Is that a focus of our discussion this morning?
It'll be helpful if you could kindly give an overview. Yes.
Sure. So FIS drives approximately just under 100,000 ATMs across the country. For our customers today, we support all makes and models. I would say the majority of our makes and models happen to be between NCR and Diebold, but Hyosung and others are supported. We provide our customers with an ATM test lab that we're able to test incoming software from different providers. But we also bring innovation to the table as well. So receipt options, dynamic currency conversion, MFA for multi-factor authentication, EJ pops up in near real time in the UI, and really all in a scope to allow our customers to remain top of wallet with their customers. And we also bring to the table, I do not have a slide in our deck here today, we provide a unique service to our customers, and that would be ATM fully managed, which some folks call ATM as a service. That's where they could purchase NCR equipment and hardware through FIS, and we could control the entire lifeline for that solution out to the financial institution. So we can drive the terminals, we can provide for cash in transit, cash forecasting, the balancing of those terminals, troubleshooting, security options, etc. So a unique sort of a boutique solution that we have been hearing from our customers that is wanted in the marketplace today, and we're just recently rolled that out to our customers.
So Kathy, in this case, do you use FIS own application basically when you're using it across the range of customers? Is it an FIS multi-vendor application which will change?
So this would be an outsourced solution where FIS is controlling all of the programming, the running of the applications, etc. And the only a little asterisk that I would add to that would be if there is a financial institution that chooses to leverage the FIS Code Connect applications and they have their own mobile wallet solution out to their customers, they can control access to those APIs and how they're applied in the marketplace. But really, behind the scenes, the application is a fully outsourced solution. Did I help answer that question accurately?
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right, let's move into operations. So to simplify operations, the tool that our customers would use would be the Payments One UI. And in the Payments One UI, I have another slide that I think will help solidify exactly what the components are that are running behind the scenes and how our customers can leverage them. But then in addition to that, we bring an entire suite of fraud solutions out to our customers, as well as ancillary solutions like Card Pro. If you've ever heard of the name FIS Card personalization solution that's available to our customers. But I will be clear in mentioning that there may be another 10 to 15 solutions that we could leverage for these prospects when we meet with them, really dependent upon what their solution requirements are. The value to the financial institution is that the user interface is so, and we won't have time to do a demo today, but it's so easy to learn, use, manage, train on, etc., that it's really going to be a thing of beauty to our customers, and that they can go to one source and manage all things for their customers from really one UI. So efficient member servicing and a shared infrastructure. One of the key things, even though this would not be applicable directly to you, it's just an example of a discussion that we would have regarding core integration. From a debit card perspective and a processing perspective, we need to have integration into the prospect's core. From a credit perspective, it's a little bit different in that you're using specific lines of credit to approve or deny incoming transactions for those customers. But from a debit perspective, it's not a line of credit to their checking and or savings account to approve or deny incoming transactions. So this would be just a series of discussions that we would have with that particular prospect. And in this case, it happens to be correlation.
And I think we covered integration previously with the group, but I think, obviously you guys covered the modern banking platform, which any of the FIS cores has integration already with the payment applications. But then as Kathy alluded to, we would then provide some of those integration specific customization, whether it's APIs, real-time or batch and real-time APIs to that institution, depending on what they're using for the core system.
Thank you, Roger. Now to specifically address the question that was asked earlier about what would happen from a client's perspective for operations and backroom management. I believe that this particular picture sort of tells a bigger story, and that is, of course, Payments One, debit and credit in the middle here, but we can provide for card management. So how many cardholders are loaded up, how many new accounts are being loaded up on a daily or a monthly basis. We can drive ATMs, as I had mentioned earlier. We can provide an entire suite of fraud and risk management solutions. And in our environment, we call that secure lock, and I'll touch on that in just a few moments. We can also provide for chargeback processing. Chargeback processing is sort of a necessary evil, if you will, for both debit, credit, and for prepaid. And they're handled just slightly differently between the products. But now we can provide a fully outsourced solution to our customers from a perspective. Event broker would be the exchange of event information. Event information for our customers could be anything from somebody is changing their card from an activate status to a live status. They could be closing out their account. They could be changing their spend limits. Event broker and Code Connect really go hand in hand in developing a method of sending a message out to the mobile mobile device of the cardholder to let them know that something has occurred. Infinity IDP is the way that we are going to manage access to the Payments One UI and the entitlement process. So that allows us for single sign-on to multiple solutions that are going on behind the scenes. In addition to that, it's important to note that really at the core of our solution is Connex. Connex is more than a switching software. Connex was developed by FIS, and Connex is not only utilized by FIS, but also some of our competitors in the marketplace. So we have other providers in the marketplace that leverage our software on their servers to manage incoming transaction and the switching and routing of transactions in the marketplace. But Connex really is at the core of how we allow our customers to have either authorizations approved or denied or sent out to other networks for the facilitation of that. And then, of course, we talked about Payments One UI. Data Navigator is think of it as a source of data, not only for settlement, but also transaction data that is occurring in the marketplace for the financial institution that we're working with. It really goes hand in hand with some of the chargeback information that I had talked about earlier, but it also brings to the table near real-time information regarding specific transactions that are occurring within the customer's portfolio. And then, of course, we talked about the FIS Code Connect and the API sandbox and marketplace that we make available to our customers for their use to deliver services and new features and functions very, very quickly in the marketplace. So let me pause for just one moment and see if there are questions. No questions?
Yeah, am I the only one that is not able to see the slides being streamed live for some reason? Or
I can see them.
you
Yeah,
can.
I think,
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
Live.
There's a networking issue at mine. I'll watch it live online later on. Sorry, I'll watch it online later. Thank you.
All right, but everyone else can see my slides, all right?
Yes.
Yep.
Wonderful.
Yes.
Wonderful. All right, so as I'd mentioned earlier, we won't have time for a demo this morning, but I just want to share with you, and it's probably a little bit rough to read through the Teams meeting here, but we have built a user interface that allows our customers to gain access to cardholder records, transactional information, fraud information, ATM terminal information, being able to add new ATMs into their environment without assistance really from FIS. And the use of this particular tool, as I'd mentioned earlier, is very, very easy. It's point-and-click technology, of course, but it's laid out very efficiently within our tools itself. One of the things that I think is unique to FIS is that we have a shared infrastructure amongst multiple solutions, and these are just a few of them. So we talked about the UI itself. Code Connect APIs can be leveraged amongst both debit and credit and eventually prepaid. We have an entire suite of fraud solutions called Secure Lock, and in full disclosure, typically the discussion on fraud and risk mitigation, I know James is on the call today, could take it could be a 45-minute discussion or it could be a 3-hour discussion. So we're not going to go into a ton of detail for fraud, but please know that the beauty of having shared infrastructure across both debit and credit is that customers become familiar with not only who is servicing their account, who's assisting them, the products and services that we bring to the table, the reports that are used from an operations perspective, all in an effort to make it more cohesive, if you will, on how they service their members. And in a similar message to that for CardPro, our card personalization option that's available to our customers and which is integrated into our debit and credit solution today, we provide 3 locations across the country that help leverage a specific customer's needs. And the beauty of having 3 very, very similar locations throughout the country is if there would be a huge demand for cards due to a mass breach or a compromise that has occurred in the marketplace today, very, very quickly, FIS can bring to the table a stand-up of their operation environment in one of our other two facilities. So CardPro brings expertise to the table, not only for, they can help with the integration for in-branch issuance, central issuance for either new cards, expiring cards, or a massive project that could probably be a compromise that has to be reissued of, let's say, of over 4,000 cards, 5,000 cards, etc. So from a CardPro perspective, we don't create our own plastics. We have partners that do that, but we bring to the table the expertise and the experience of ordering millions of cards on an annual basis. So therefore, we can bring some cost savings to our customers as well. So multifunction use, not only from fraud, but also from card personalization. And then, of course, if you're not aware, FIS owns the NICE Payments Network. And from a NICE Payments Network, we're talking about a PIN network, so not necessarily associated with credit processing, but for financial institutions that are not regulated, which means under 10 billion in assets. There is a interchange lift that we can bring to the table based on every PIN-based point of sale transaction that our customers actually substantiate during the course of the month. And I did, go ahead, Roger.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're at the top of the hour. Maybe I know we have a couple of slides maybe showing the credit as well as the one view, which might be useful from the FI perspective. Maybe we skip to there. So again, as kind of Kathy was alluding to, the solution stack for payments includes really, debit, credit, even integrated payables, virtual cards. As you see here, we'll kind of navigate this slide and then maybe the one view and kind of maybe shorten this up for Keith and team to kind of cover the remaining 25 minutes. But if we wanted to start from this slide and move forward.
So multiple products that are available from the credit processing environment, anything that traditionally that a customer is looking to roll out, we can support for them, including HELOC, line of credit, our installment loan program, and affinity cards. I do have a couple of different slides that I can show you. This would be one that we would use to actually show a description of Payments One credit. Let's see, and then we have a solution that is called OneView. OneView allows our customers, and I believe it's running in the background here.
Yep.
We allow our customers to gain access to a solution that's called OneView, providing our customers with instant knowledge of where their cards are being used, what kind of transactions are actually occurring in the marketplace, and data that allows them to become smarter users of the system and having their pulse on their cardholder activity itself. Roger, is there additional information that you'd like to share regarding OneView itself?
Yeah, and this it really applies to debit and credit, either application. So I just think it's useful for those larger issuers that want to see, and get real-time insights into their portfolio versus, kind of waiting to look at reports or look at activity after the fact. They can do it in real time. So great trends. I think, James, from a fraud and risk perspective, this also is useful from our fraud mitigation perspective as well.
Roger, my apologies. Maybe I'm being stupid here, but what value does a bank get from knowing, say, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, what is going on with the portfolio rather than having to wait till the next day?
Yes, in some cases, we've worked with unique ones where, let's say that there's a, large activity within their portfolio. Some cardholders drive a lot of activity to their debit cards. There's a tax refund process that we've worked with that have lots of activity in a short burst of time because they do tax refunds and load them on a card for them to use. They really want to see where those activities are happening. And then if there's any kind of trends for fraud, they can kind of identify, hey, we're seeing this at a particular ATM location. Maybe there's cardholder fraud going on with a skimming device at an ATM terminal that they're incurring fraud losses on, whether it's debit, credit, or a combination of those applications. It also tries to show if they can partner with that merchant location. Maybe there's additional transactions they're driving towards that a particular merchant, that they could do additional partnerships as the FI to drive additional real-time redemptions. If their cardholders are, hey, 40% of the transactions are going to these locations, maybe there's something there the FI could work with, indicating that they're driving X number of cardholder transactions to that institution or that merchant. And again, those are some things that I would say that would be interesting to the FI to know, versus, kind of getting it, kind of later, not in real time.
Okay, thank you. Those
And
are good
there's some of
examples.
are highlighted in here, the spend of high value customers, high value merchants, particular dashboards to that. Again, whether it's, reducing fraud, mitigating fraud, that seems to be the most common. Again, I guess I would say that they could also figure out if there's any SLAs or any other activity that's, preventing their cardholders from doing, transactions. So again, maybe determining in the networks if there's slowdowns or other things that are preventing those transactions from going through. Good question.
Now, Roger, I know that we're right up against our time. I think those were the highlights that we wanted to cover today. Would you like me to cease sharing my screen and send things over to Keith?
Yeah. Any other questions you guys have for credit, debit, and the payment solution stack? Again, very flexible. Obviously, we customize it based on the opportunity, where their particular focus is. And again, as you kind of sense, FIS kind of owns a lot of those various products within that solution suite, so that we can kind of meet those customer requirements based on what they're looking for, whether that's, commercial card, credit cards, debit cards, integrated payables, virtual cards, any of those types of activities with fraud linked in their network and loyalty. So that's helpful. Yep. You can go ahead, and I don't know, Keith, are you you have a deck that you're going to show?
Yeah, I'm
stop sharing.
Are you guys seeing my screen?
No, I'm still seeing Kathy's, I think.
I may have touched the wrong button. Go ahead and try to take over control, Keith.
It says I'm presenting. Let's try again.
You guys still seeing the? Oh, there we go.
There we go.
That's
Sorry
better.
about that, Keith. All right, perfect.
That's okay. Let me get rid of these.
Yep. I see open payment. There we go.
Okay, great. Hey, yep, thanks, guys. This is Keith McAfee. I'm manage the pre-sales team here in the BSG group for what we call the open payments suite of solutions. So I'll, just like Kathy, I'll breeze through this. It's a lot to cover in 20-25 minutes. So we're going to just hit the highlights, and can certainly set up additional discussions as needed. So when we talk, you'll hear us refer to it as OPF as well, Open Payment Framework. Really comes out of the acquisition FIS did about 6 years ago, a company called Clear to Pay, which was based in Brussels and focused on global payments across the globe. So that's really, when we talk about OPF, it's a multitude of different payment schemes, really, non-card based payment processing rails like ACH and Wire and Swift and those type things. We're going to talk about it. So I've got a customer slide a little bit later on I'll talk about, but the main point here is that it was from, you guys some of you may have heard of Clear to Pay. And then we do offer open payments both in an on-premise model as well as a hosted model with FIS. On the global side, so here's a quick slide that kind of shows the scope and scale from a product standpoint across the globe. Focused on about 30 deals in all 6 continents really. And we're gonna talk mostly today about the U.S. Specific payments. If we want to talk about EMEA or Asia, APAC, we can do that as well. But you can see here that's kind of the global reach of OPF. So when we talk about the way to think about open payments is that it is an enterprise architecture upon which we build different specific product modules on top of that. So we share the OPF, the plumbing or the underlying architecture across all, whether we're talking about ACH in the US or SEPA in Europe or NPP in Australia. All these products are built on the same underlying architecture. It's a service-oriented architecture comprised of a multitude of payment-related services, of which you see some examples down here, things like validations and foreign exchange and warehousing. And then, an important component is that all of Open Payments is built on an ISO 20022 data model. And so that's been part of the system for 15 years. And so that's really been an important differentiator for us. As the market, different schemes have moved to that it's become the de facto global standard for payment processing, and I'll say non-card payment processing across the globe, whether that's in most recently with TCH, with the real-time payments, they use ISO 22. SWIFT has moved to that. The Fed, when FedNow comes out in a little bit in a year or two, the FedWire is moving to it. So it's an important component and something that we're able to talk about quite extensively when we get in front of a client. So you see across the top, I'm going to touch, the individual product modules. And again, this is focused on the US and North America primarily. So we've got our RTP product, our FedWire product, our what we call POM, which is our payment orchestration manager. Think of that as a hub, as a traditional payment hub. In those terms, we have our ACH engine, and then we have our what we call business payments, which is our origination, our channel applications. So those are all sold individually. Some banks run more than one, some banks only run one. It really depends on the tactical or strategic need that they're facing at that moment in time. So this is kind of another view of that, kind of blown up a little bit, kind of show a high level flow and how, in this case, if we were talking to a bank about RTP and they wanted to be a new bank on the RTP rail, this is what potentially their deployment could look like. It kind of runs against multiple layers starting at the channel. POM, again, is an orchestration layer, a payment hub that enables them to kind of orchestrate common interfaces to their fraud or their OFAC engines within the bank. So we have, we will sell individual solutions like wires or ACH, and then we integrate. We have a set of integration services, kind of similar to what Payments One was talking about. I'll spend a little bit more time talking about this thing over here toward the right called CBIS, which is our core banking integration service, and how we're flexible and integrate to not only the multitude of FIS cores, but also non-FIS cores as well. OPF has to be core agnostic because we're, not all of our clients are, we want them to be able to run an FIS core, but not all of them are. So we have kind of a common integration into those cores. So this is really what a schematic looks like at a high level from a customer deployment perspective. And we get into, when we start talking about OPF, we use the multi-everything vernacular. So we're multi-channel, able to connect to multiple schemes, able to do multiple payment types, all the common all the multis, the multi-currency, the multi-bank, the multi-country, multi-language, all those things that, our typical client is, a top 75 bank, it's 10 billion and up. So we're talking about banks that typically use are looking for a new wire or ACH engine, but are typically processing large volumes across the board. So this is just a real quick high-level view of some of our clients. And again, this is focused on North America. And we really break it into 3 levels here. So we got at the top here is the front office. In the middle is your middle office or your traditional payment hub, and then down at the bottom down here is your typical execution rail, whether that's a Fedwire system or an ACH engine or a real-time payment engine into the clearinghouse. So those are, I'm not going to go into any specific details on any of these clients. If you got, I'll pause here and that's a lot of content before I get into some of the specifics of each one of the modules. I'll pause here and see what any questions.
Yeah, hi Keith, this is Raja. Just a quick question. How do I read this slide, for example, right? I mean, front office channels, and then you talk about just PNC, Fifth Third Bank, and Bank of America. So what does that mean? So
that means, so each one of those banks has, this is focused on in the case of on the channel side with our business payments module of OPF. They all those 3 banks use that for part of their treasury portal. So for their commercial clients doing payment origination. In the case of Bank of America, they have a product they call Cash Pro Online, so if you were a commercial client going on to Cash Pro Online to originate an ACH payment, you would actually be using the FIS, our business payments module. So it's in the case of those 3 banks, it is a channel front end application that a commercial client is using of the bank to send a payment to the bank.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Keith. Tukun here. Just you mentioned about core banking system as well as the core solution. So I also saw some reference about things being on-prem and there's a path towards movement to cloud. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that? Like, do you mostly have the core banking system integrators on cloud, or do you see that on-prem? And another aspect is you mentioned about ISO 20022 as being a core part of the journey. But I just wanted to check on, the kind of message mapping in between 20022 and 8583. Do you see that being translated or handled within the solution today?
Yeah, so a couple questions there. So I've got, if you'll hold the question about the core integration, I have a couple slides specifically on that in just a few minutes. So
Sure.
And how we do that. So on the ISO 2820, what we do is actually let me just it'll make more sense. I'll come back to this. So what we do is we orchestrate a payment flow inside of OPF, and this could be ACH, this could be Wire, this could be SWIFT, this could be SEPA. Doesn't really matter. Inside this box here is really kind of the same across all of our products. So when we take in a payment or send out a payment, it's always being normalized into that ISO 20022, transformed. So let's say we get a notcha file. When we bring it into OPF, we normalize that we have an ISO 20022 data model. So it's in this box here. When it's inside of OPF, it's in that ISO format. So then we kick off a workflow, and that's because we're transforming all of our inbound and outbound payments into that ISO standard. That's what enables us to kind of build common workflows across all these different schemes across the globe. So when a notcha file comes in, it gets what we call parsed, and it's sitting inside of OPF, and then we kick off a BPMN2 workflow. And you can see some example. I call these the Lego blocks. And the Lego blocks can be rearranged, and we orchestrate those into different workflows based off what the bank wants. And sometimes the bank wants the fraud check to be at the beginning of the workflow, and maybe another bank wants it to be at the end of the workflow. So you see all, OPF has 132 different services. So this is just a sample. And in some cases, we'll actually call out to, notice a couple here, like the fraud service and an OFAC service. We'll call out to an enterprise engine that the bank may have for fraud, whether that's, an FIS asset or a non-FIS asset, we'll call out during that workflow. So that's kind of how we're doing information to and from each one of those different payment formats. As it relates to ISO 8583, so we're not a card system, so we can we can translate an ISO 8583 into the ISO 20022 if that's what the bank wants to do. And we've done some card processing for a few clients, but that's really, we're primarily focused on non-card, but from our standpoint, the 8583 would just be another format.
So in the case of 8583, and supposing it's coming over Visa's rails, do you have the ability to interpret Visa's special flags, how they interpret their data on that packet?
No, we're not processing it. We're not a PCI compliant card processing system. Okay. So that's we do have we've just recently done an integration for Visa B2B for out of our wire, for international payments. So we've done integration from that, but it's not a true, card processing type scenario.
Okay.
Let me go back up here and just touch. I'm just going to touch on each one of these real quick. Is there a question?
And your card processing can be also put onto like say there is a edge platform or some on the acquirers or somewhere where this can be these components can be put onto a smaller edge platform as well, just in the at the point of sale or at the A itself, at the bank acquirer system itself, acquirer premises itself, rather than.
Yeah, we're assuming this is a highly distributed system, so you have the flexibility to deploy it not just within the bank's premises, but also closer to the bank at the edges, for instance, with any of your value-added services serving in a multi-tenant manner, multiple entities. So is that something you support today?
Repeat that question. I don't know. I didn't quite understand the question. What?
The question is, do you have the notion of an intelligent edge? An edge that is not really within the bank. Let's say it's a credit union. They don't have much of too much of IT services. They really don't have very sophisticated IT capabilities. So can you offer the bulk of the services from within your software delivered to the credit union, closer to the edge, but not within the credit union's data centers? So do you have this type of integrations? Do you support those?
Yes. Yeah. So we're focused on the large, the 10 billion and higher type organizations, but we do offer it in a couple different, like I said, on-prem, or we can do a dedicated hosted where FIS is hosting a specific deployment of OPF for that client. So we're not intermingling, not your traditional ASP for ACH and wire. It's going to be more of a dedicated hosted environment for that financial institution.
Do you also provide multi-tenanted services for some of the smaller institutions?
Not for ACH and wire and SWIFT. It's for real-time payment. We do offer that as an ASP model. We do offer OPF as an ASP model for RTP. That's the only one that we're doing that in a true ASP today.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So real quickly through the AC, each one of the product modules real quick. So our ACH engine is the back office processing engine for all your SEC codes, your AC, we connect to Fed, ACH, and EPN, all your ability to take in NACHA batches and process those inbound and forwards and returns and doing positive ACH positive pay, all your standard ACH lingo here for any of you that are familiar with how ACH works on the back end. So again, we're typically selling this product. We've spent probably 3 years and $10 million, over $10 million building this out. Really going after many of you may have heard of PEP Plus, which is one of our competitors' products for ACH processing. And so this product is our solution to replace that at many of the large FIs. Again, we're going after the top 50 to top 80 FIs that use one of our competitors' systems. And so here's standard features. It's quite a lot of time and money has gone into building this out. So I'm not gonna get into any specific ACH or processing questions or topics. If any questions on ACH. I'm trying, I know we've got only 5 minutes left, so I'm trying to breeze through this. All right, I'll keep going. On the wire side, so this is our wire engine. It includes both FedWire as well as SWIFT, and it includes other schemes, RTGS schemes across the globe like CHAPS and Target 2 in Europe. You can see down here at the bottom where we're connected to Visa B2B. So we're SWIFT GPI Connect, certified, have been so for many, many years. We've done quite a bit of implementations at many of the large Bank of New York Mellon is a big customer of our wire module. So all your components around STP, straight through processing, are an important component of our wires module. Being able to do things like we have an extensive routing, kind of maybe that was touch on a little bit one of your other questions. So extensive routing rules where we can determine the optimal route of a payment, whether that's by currency or amount or value date. We can send it down a different path based off a variety of different rules-based criteria. But again, it's focused on RTGS and FedWire SWIFT processing across from a global perspective. Our most recent new application is our real-time payments module. So this is our connectivity into the clearinghouse. This is a new payment rail that came out a couple years ago. And so it's really finally starting to get some traction from the bank's perspective. So again, this is just it is another payment engine, just like it functions very similar to wire. We're the gateway connectivity into TCH, and then we do integration inside of the bank to their channels and their core and their fraud and their OFAC, all the different ancillary systems inside the bank that we need to connect to from a payment processing perspective. So common features around being RTP has an SLA of less than 5 seconds. So there's quite a bit of features around being able to pitch and catch messages very quickly in this new RTP scheme. And you can see some of these features. A lot of these are common across all of our engines. Whether it's being able to do the accounting and checking limits and doing compliance and things like that. If you haven't seen a paper or a publication that we put out every year called Flavors of Fast, I would suggest that we get that. Andrea, we could probably get that to them, but it's a really, really good publication that we do annually that talks about the the adoption of real-time payments across the globe. It spends, a page or so on each country. So if you haven't seen that, I'll recommend that we send it to you guys so you can take a look at it. It really is very educational from a.
Keith, if you send it to me, I'll get it out to everybody that's attended.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Yep. All right, then the last module I talked about, we touched on this earlier. This is our business payments module. This is our channel application for corporate/commercial clients to originate an ACH payroll or send a wire transfer or send a SWIFT payment. This is a common UI, and so it does, it allows a customer to manually create a payment or import it from a spreadsheet or another, maybe their ERP system. So this is how they would go through and initiate, things like, as I mentioned, ACH. We can do tax payments. So there's state and federal payment formats that we support via ACH, CTX, EDI type ACH payments. Again, manual entry and upload. So all the things that go into originating or issuing a payment from a channel is what our BP module does. So real quickly, I know we're running out of time. I'll spend 2 minutes on the architecture. Just to, it's a pretty standard stack. It's Red Hat on the app, Red Hat Linux, WebSphere on the, and then an Oracle database. And then we kind of use a common layer in the middle here, and then we build specific products across the top, and then layer on top a customer configuration layer. Again, I won't go into this. ISO 20022 is kind of the backbone of our system, and then we talked a little bit earlier about the workflow and how we orchestrate a payment flow. One of the new, another differentiator that we've introduced with OPF is what we call the core banking integration service. So this was back to the core question earlier. So this is typically what happens today, in a spaghetti diagram. This could be any core over here on the right. It could be IBS or any profile, any of our FIS cores. What we've done is kind of put that all in, put all the common integration into this CBIS module, and it's very important from specifically for an RTP rail, because we have to be able to send and respond to the clearinghouse in less than a few seconds, and so and be up 24/7, and so many of the core legacy cores that we deal with, not only in many of the big banks have been running for 20 years. They're mainframe based. A lot of times they go down at night for maintenance or for just have issues, and you cannot. The requirements of TCH is that you have to be up and running 24/7. So we introduced this CBIS layer, which allows us to perform in a stand-in mode for the core for processing real-time payments or any of our other modules. So whenever that maintenance occurs, we can serve as the stand-in for the core, and then eventually what we call trickle do the catch-up for those payments. So this was really my last slide, and it just touches on a little bit what I was talking about, some of the benefits of CBIS. It's really being able to deal with multiple cores and being able to perform stand-in, and then in multiple perform accounting in very complex type systems. All right, so I apologize. That was quick for the last few slides.
That was incredible, Keith. Thank you.
All right, I'll pause there for any wrap-up questions.
Keith, there was a slide in which you talked about those various banks using various stuff, somebody using only wire, somebody using business payment. So do we understand that it's a modular solution and you need not buy the whole of Clear to Pay, and they can go with the individual options? So for example, somebody wants to transform the rails, then he can go for that.
That's exactly it. So the most, I'd say the many of these banks are only running one module. So like, RTP has been very successful, and that's been a foot in the door for, banks like Zions and M&T, for us to we most recently Regions, has converted over from an IBM, or is in the process of converting over from IBM. So yes, the short answer is, you can run one module and you don't have to deploy everything, or, start with one and then over time add the second or add the third. That's typically the model that we go with.
And you gave the mention in the case of wires that you could possibly give a customer or suggest a customer an option on which one he should select, for example, a bill pay or a Zelle. What could be an option to transfer money? Is that using machine learning? And have you used this in any of the banks in US? Because that sounds interesting, which can be taken to some of our customers.
Yeah, well, we have we've got some business rules that we build, and so we have some enrichment capabilities that are, you can configure to enhance the straight through, pure AI, machine learning. That's on our roadmap. We're doing some kind of POCs, from a development standpoint, looking at that. Today it's all more configuration and rule based than machine learning type processing. So it's a little bit of both, but it's definitely moving in the direction of more AI type stuff over time.
Well, last thing from me, you touched upon RTP has a mandate of less than 5 seconds. Sometimes for getting a fraud-free transactions at a endpoint, you may not even have that kind of a luxury. So if a customer wants a solution more from a fraud point of view, generally they have their own internal models for it. Is there something that FIS offers just as a fraud per se, which can be used as a service?
Yes, so FIS has multiple fraud systems. So, Roger or Andrea, if I think we partner
We're going
with
to be releasing a new AML and KYC sanctions screening solution after the first of the year, and I can certainly set up a separate presentation on that for everyone.
Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, so we from an open payments perspective have to be agnostic across all these different systems, and so whether it's fraud or whether it's OFAC or whether it's other sanctions or whether it's the core, we're very flexible in how we OPF integrate into these other ancillary systems, and so in some cases that's an FIS asset, as I mentioned. In some cases it's not.
And the monitoring you talked about for the ATMs, my understanding it would be vendor agnostic, NCR, Diebold, WinCor, etc. You will cover multiple flavors.
Was that a question for Roger and Kathy?
Like that's for Roger and Kathy.
Maybe I asked quite late. That's okay. That's okay.
Keith, Balaji this side. So one quick question. So does the last layer that you talked about, where IBM is a competitor, so you're talking about IBM's FTM product, is it?
Yes.
And any particular view, hey, how does it stack against IBM FTM? Why do customers move from IBM solution to yours?
Well, FTM is really more of a toolkit, and so they typically sell it to a larger bank that has their own development group and wants to fiddle with widgets and build things, and so where we were able to replace OPF is more we're selling specific product modules. So it's not, a lot of the banks are moving away from that, having a big dev shop, and want to buy more off the shelf products. And so that's in the case of the customer I mentioned earlier, moving off of that, it was becoming too expensive for them to maintain it. Stay compliant. RTP is coming out with a new release every 4 or 5 months, and so it wasn't cost effective for them to keep that for that specific rail. Now they haven't replaced the whole thing, but for real-time payments, that was the main reason.
Got that. Thank you. And
Mhm.
the RTP module that you spoke about, is it hosted in the FIS data center, is it? Or is it hosted in
Yes.
any of the cloud vendors?
No, it's hosted in our data center. We have 6 clients running that today, and 5 of them are hosted in our data center, and 1's on-prem.
Okay. Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, everyone, for participating. You'll have this recording, and I will connect with Keith to get that fast diagram and information as we promised. And if you have other questions, please forward them to any of the speakers or to me, and I'll get them to the speakers so that we can make sure you got a good understanding of what we presented today. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.